Hey guys, Brad from simpleguitar.com here, and welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about seventh chords, what the heck are they, and where do they come from. Now, the idea for today's video came from my good friend Armando in New Jersey, so thank you, Armando, for suggesting this. This is going to be great. And before we dive in, I do want you to know that I have a gift for you. It is called the Top 10 Things to Learn on Guitar First. It's a free guide, 17 pages going over the top 10 things I love to teach beginners when they're starting out so that they can play real music faster. So if you're just starting out on guitar, or maybe you've been playing for a little bit and you've got some holes in your knowledge, you want to fill in the gaps, go to simpleguitar.com/top10, get the top 10 things to learn on guitar first guide. You can just download it. It's totally free. It's yours. Go through it. Have fun with it. I just want it to help you out and help make learning guitar simple so that you can feel like a rock star even if you're just starting out. Now let's go ahead and dive into these seventh chords. So what the heck are seventh chords and where do they come from? Well, just like a major chord or a minor chord or a diminished chord, a seventh chord is just a type of chord with its own characteristic sound. So let's really quick compare that. First of all, this is an E major chord. And that's how that sounds, right? Every major chord has the same characteristic sound to it because the relationships between all the notes are the same from major chord to major chord to major chord. Same with minor. This is a minor chord, which minor chords, they have their own sound. Seventh chords also have their own sound. So this is what we call a typical seventh chord. This is your E7 chord, which is also known as a dominant seventh chord. And it has its own sound. So with major, you have sound options. With minor, you have sound options. And with seven, you have sound options. But the trick is there's more than one type of seven chord. I know this confused me forever, but there are more than one type of seven chord. And we're going to go over 3 or 4 of the most common, most useful ones and how to find those and where they come from. And we can nerd out later about all the other ones. So first, let's dive in and we're going to talk about where these come from and how to find these chords. In another video that I've done, we go over where do chords come from, how to find them, and we go over major, minor, and diminished chords in that video. And you can go check that out if you want to dive a little bit deeper than what we're going to cover for that today. But if you've seen that video already, that's going to give you a really good foundation for what we talk about today with these seven chords. Now, if we take the C major scale, which is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C, we're going to start on our C note. And from C, we're going to skip every other note of the scale, okay? So we're going to do that until we have 3 notes. So we'll have C, we're going to skip over D and take E, and then we're going to skip over F and take G. And that gives us the 3 notes of our chord. Handy, right? So that is where our major chord comes from. Now to make this a 7th chord, we're going to do the same thing with a 4th note of the chord. So we're going to have C, E, and G, and then we are going to skip over A, and we're going to grab B and add that to our chord. So a 7th chord is going to be a 4-note chord, not a 3-note chord. And if I do that, the simplest way to do this is just like if you're playing a regular C open chord. You just lift up your first finger, because then you have C, you have E, you have G, and then you have B. And then if you play your first string, you get that E again. So that is what we call a major 7 chord. It is built with a major triad. So the formula for a major triad was the first note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale, or 1, 3, 5. And to make this major 7 chord, we're grabbing the 7th note of the scale. And so it would be 1, 3, 5, 7. Now, the relationship between those notes is what is important, because if you understand the formula and you understand that this comes from the scale, the major scale, you can build this off of any note anywhere. any of them, doesn't matter, okay? But also, if you understand that between C and E, we have 4 half steps, or what's called a major third. Between E and G, we have 3 half steps, or what's called a minor third. And then between G and B, we have 4 half steps, or another major third. That's the relationship between each of those notes. And when we play those notes that way, that gives us a major 7 chord no matter where it is. So I could take this and I can play it anywhere, really. And we can have major 7 chords everywhere. It's awesome. So if we start on C and we take every other note until we have 4 notes, we're going to get a major 7 chord. Now let's start on D, just like we did before. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start on D. We're going to grab every other note of the scale until we have 4 notes. And remember, the notes of the scale are going to repeat, right? We don't stop once we hit C again. The scale will continue. It's the relationships of those notes that matter. So if we start on D, then we're going to have D, we're going to have F, and we're going to have A, which is going to give us a minor chord. But to get this into a 7th chord, what we're going to do is we're going to go one more note. So we're going to skip over B and we're going to add C into the scale. So now we're going to have D, F, A, and C, and that's our 4 notes that makes up our scale. And this chord is what we call a minor 7. So we have a minor triad, which, if you remember, the formula for a minor chord or a minor triad is 1, flat 3, and 5. So we have a minor third from D to F, and then we have a major third going from F to A, and then to get from A to C, we have another minor third, or 3 half steps. So between D and F, we've got 3 half steps, or a minor third. Between F and A, we have 4 half steps, or a major third. And then between A and C, we have a minor third, or 3 half steps again. And by doing that, we get this minor 7 sound. Now let's keep going. So far on C, we have a major 7 chord. If we start on D, we have a minor 7 chord. So let's start on E. With E, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start on E and go every other note until we have 4 notes, and that'll give us our 7th chord. So we're going to start on E, and then we're going to grab G, and then we're going to grab B, and then we're going to grab D. And that is going to give us another minor 7 chord, because the relationships between all the notes in this E chord between E and G and B and D are the exact same as between D, F, A, and C. And I totally forgot to mention this. The formula then is a 1, a flat 3, a 5. That's our minor triad. And then to make this a minor 7, we're going to have what's called a flat 7, because we're going a minor third, which is 3 half steps, instead of a major third, which is 4 half steps, like we did with C. Remember when we did C and we had C major 7, between the 5th note and the 7th note, there were 4 half steps, or a major third. But here in our minor 7 chord, there's only 3. We're only going a minor third. So in the formula, it's 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So far on C, we have a major 7 chord. On D, we have a minor 7 chord. On E, we have another minor 7 chord. So let's look at F. So if we start on F and go every other note of the scale until we have 4 notes, we're going to have F, we're going to have A, we're going to have C, and then we're going to have E. And the easiest way to play this, if you want to play this, is your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of your 4th string, that's your F, and then your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of your 3rd string, that's A, 1st finger on the 1st fret of your 2nd string is C, and then your open E string, your 1st string, that's an F major 7 chord. And it's a major 7 because the relationships between these notes are the same as the notes in our C major 7 chord that we found first. So this would be a 1, 3, 5, 7 major 7 chord. So far we have a major 7, we have a minor 7, we have another minor 7, and now we have another major 7 chord. So let's keep going and let's start on G. So G is the 5th note of the scale, and what we're going to do is we're going to start on G. We're going to do every other note until we have 4 notes, and we're going to look at what this gives us. So we are going to have G, and then we're going to have B, and then we're going to have D, and then we're going to have F. And that is the notes for this 7 chord. And this is the exact same as your regular G7 open chord that everybody learns. Let's look at the relationship between these notes. So between G and B, we have a major third, which is a distance of 4 half steps. Between B and D, we have a minor third, which is a distance of 3 half steps. And then between D and F, we have another minor third. Now this is where it gets crazy, because so far we've had major 7 chords where we have a major triad, right? Now this is what we call a dominant 7 chord, or whenever you see the name of it like E7, A7, G7, D7, that's how you say it. But this is what for years I just knew as a 7 chord. I had no idea there was any such thing as what's called a dominant 7 chord. I was confused forever, okay? So if you ever hear dominant 7 chord, that's what they're talking about. Just a typical 7 chord. Piece of cake, right? The relationship between these notes and why this is a dominant 7 chord and not a major 7 chord is we have a major triad. We have 1, 3, and 5 to make up this chord. But then it's that distance of going from D to F is a minor third, or only 3 half steps. And so that is going to give us a flat 7, just like in our minor 7 chords, right? And so that is the formula for a dominant 7 chord: a 1, a 3, a 5, and a flat 7. We're going from the first note, a major third, and then going from that third note, a minor third to the 5th, and then another minor third to the flat 7. And that is your formula for a dominant 7, or a typical 7 chord. Now the next one I'm just going to give to you, it's A, and the notes are A and C and E and G. And if we play that, we get another minor 7 chord like this. Now, I love the sound of minor 7 chords. I think they're awesome. In fact, I play E minor 7 way more than I just play E minor, because I think it sounds so much cooler. But for starting on A and grabbing 4 notes, every other note of the scale, we're going to get another minor 7 chord. So far, we have a major 7 chord on C. We have a minor 7 chord on D. We have a minor 7 chord on E. We have a major 7 chord again on F. We have a dominant 7 chord on G. And now we have another minor 7 chord on A. Let's look at this very last one. B is the final note of the scale. So we're going to do the same thing where we start and we go every other note till we have 4 notes. So we're going to have B, and then we're going to have D, and then we're going to have F, and then we're going to have A. Now, this is going to be a little bit tricky and a little bit goofy, because if you remember from talking about just the regular triads, this gives us a diminished chord, or a diminished triad. So we would normally just have a diminished chord here on B, but now we're going to add a 4th note to it, okay? Because we have B, D, F, A, right? So what you're going to do is you're actually going to have your B, and then an F right here, and an A right here, and then a D. And this is how you could play this one really easy. It's a little tricky. Your 1st and 2nd finger are on the same fret, and your 3rd and 4th fingers are on the next fret. But this is what we call a half diminished 7 chord. Or if you play jazz, it's a minor 7 flat 5. Those 2 terms are interchangeable here. For years, I played in jazz band in high school, but I had no education. I was completely self-taught. And whenever I saw minor 7 flat 5 pop up in songs, I had no idea what that was. And it was just doing that. just that chord. It's just whatever root I needed it to be on, and that's all it was. About senior year, I started figuring that out and being able to actually play those. But that is a minor 7 flat 5 or a half diminished 7 chord. So let's look at the relationships really quick between those notes. Between B and D, we have a minor third. So we're only going 3 half steps. Between D and F, we have another minor third, which is going only 3 half steps. And then between the F and the A, we're only going 3 half steps. So it's a minor third and a minor third and a minor third. That's all we're doing. So we have a diminished triad, a 1, flat 3, flat 5, and then flat 7 is what is the formula for this. So 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. And that is how you get a half diminished 7 chord or a minor 7 flat 5. Now, all of these chords work together. Just like we came up with a major key chord formula using major and minor and diminished chords, where we took C, and then we had D minor worked, and E minor, and then F, and then G, and then A minor, and then B diminished, and then back to C. Right? All those chords are the chords in that key. And they go well together because they're all built from the same notes of the same scale. Same thing here. Here we would have our C major 7, and that's the 1 chord in the key. Our D minor 7 is the 2nd chord or the 2 chord. E minor 7 is your 3rd. F major 7 is your 4th. G7 is the 5th, A minor 7 is the 6th, and B minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished 7 is the 7th chord, and then we would resolve that by going back to C major 7. So you can see how all these chords are related, and that's how we pull them out of the scale. That's how they're built, and they all sound good together. Now here's the cool thing. The more 7 chords that you use, the more jazzy you're going to sound. It's going to sound a little bit more sophisticated. It's going to have a more complex texture and sound to every chord that you play. And that can be really good depending on what you're playing. It's interesting how much you will find these chords in pop stuff. I was just going through a Paramore song with some students, and there's a minor 9 chord in there, which is a little bit of an extension of a minor 7 chord. And that's coming from pop punk, early Paramore stuff, you know? And so it's interesting where you will find these because it seems like 7 chords aren't used as much in music today, but they really are. And they're a great way to expand your sound and what you can play. But now I hope that these 7 chords aren't mystical or mysterious. I hope that you can make sense of them and that made it simple for you so that 7 chords are a lot easier to understand. Now, if you still have questions, drop down into the comments below, ask your questions down there. I'm happy to get down there and answer those and help you out further beyond just doing this video, okay? And also don't forget about the gift that I have for you at my website. If you go to simpleguitar.com/top10, there you can get the top 10 things to learn on guitar first. If you don't have that already, it's just my gift to you. It's my way of saying thank you for spending some time with me today to learn about 7th chords, because this stuff's fun and I like being able to make things simple for you. And so thank you for being here. I really do appreciate you. And I really do hope that that made 7 chords easier for you to understand. Now, if you want to go deeper into 7 chords and how they work, we can do another video. Leave a comment down below and let me know that you want to do that. But otherwise, that's it, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the video, and thank you for your support. And I hope that helped you out, and I will catch you in the next video.